All righty. Well, good morning, everybody. How are y'all doing? I heard 3 claps and I saw 1 smile. Hey, good leadership breakfast. How are we doing this morning? See, I knew that's the best table. So good. Nice to see everybody. Hey, well, welcome, everybody, to the 113th edition meeting of the Good Leadership Breakfast. My name is JC Lippold. I'm a senior coaching associate here at Good Leadership and the co-host of the breakfast. If you're still in line getting breakfast, don't worry. We're going to do some pre-activities. So enjoy your food, enjoy your coffee, enjoy your company. And everybody, as you look up on the screen, you're going to see the 7Fs wheel. The 7Fs wheel is a very near and dear tool that we use at Good Leadership, at the Good Leadership Breakfast, at engagements with companies, and companies then use in their day-to-day activity to tap into not only your professional placement, goals, aspirations, but also your personal ones. Darren Lynch and Irish Titan sponsor this activity and use it within their work day to day, and we're thankful for them. But would love for you to take a couple of minutes right now. So if you look inside your program, open up your hymnal to the inside cover, and you will see a little QR code to go ahead and pull up the 7Fs wheel on your phone in a nice digital fashion. Or you can simply go ahead and do it on some scratch paper on the back of your program. The 7Fs wheel is a really efficient way to tap in to right now, to how you are doing with your faith, family, finances, fitness, friends, fun, and future. So you'll circle 7 numbers, 1 for each of these 7 areas of your life. 1 is, this thing could not be worse in my life right now. And 10 is, this thing could not be better in my life right now. Now, don't think too hard about each of these. Like, tap into this moment, right? How are you feeling? One of the other things you often see at a Good Leadership Breakfast, if this is your first time or your 113th time, is that we engage you in collecting some in-room data to really look at what goodness is doing in the world, but also to say, how are we doing right now? So if you look up at the screen, now there's a QR code up here, and if you'd prefer, you can type in the web address, www.slido.com, and we're going to do our first poll today. The poll is, which of your 7Fs are you most satisfied with today? Again, don't think too long, too hard about it. All right, you can see the data starting to populate on the screen. And as we get ready to talk about what we see up here, I'd like to invite my friend Julie McDonough from Old National Bank, market manager in Minnesota, up to the stage, who's our co-host for the breakfast. Let's give Julie a round of applause, everybody.
Thank you. Good morning, JC.
It's always the best feeling to get to walk on stage and just have people clap at you if you're not doing anything.
I know, right? I like that.
So as we look up at the screen, we can see that family's winning. But Julie, I want to ask you first, how's your 7Fs looking today? What are you most satisfied with?
Well, I was smiling as these came up because for me, family is top of my list. We just had a wonderful little spring break getaway, and we're able to check out for a week with the family. So that was top for me. And then, you know, working in a bank and working in wealth management and seeing finances at the bottom, we got some work to do for people out there.
Yeah, I don't know if people just didn't see that was an option that you could click. It's like 0 people said they are satisfied with their finances. Huh, that's fun. Let's have Old National Bank walk on stage. No, but everybody, this current breakfast, this is the second of 3 breakfasts around the idea of building cultures of healthy accountability within your workplace. So you may be going, okay, so why are we talking about our personal lives? Why are we talking about who we are when we take off the suit coat or when we close the laptop? Well, if you've been in the good leadership sphere, even for a second, and if this is your first second, you're going to learn really quickly, when we tap into our personal and our professional, all of a sudden we start to see why goodness moves entities, companies, organizations, the world forward. Why? Healthy accountability is not a character trait. Healthy accountability is something that's created. It's something that's cultural. It's something that's ever-changing. So as this changes, if we did this 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks from now, it'd probably be different, right? So what a perfect way to dive into our breakfast this morning. So as we move forward today, we're going to go ahead and get ready. I just lost my train of thought. We're going to get ready to go ahead and recap, first of all, last month's breakfast, so then we can get ready to welcome Allison O'Toole up later. So, last month, we welcomed the one and only Christy. Christy, are you here? I thought I saw Christy maybe was going to be here today. Okay, because I'm going to talk about Christy for a moment. To go ahead and set up this topic of healthy accountability, last month, Christy shared a really wonderful story about her first experience with experiencing accountability. Christy's been in the workforce for 35 years, has worked for only 3 companies, and her first company was with Rainbow Foods. And she told this story about her manager, Phil, who she's still friends with today. And there was this moment where she was down at the cashier, working her work, 16 years old, and all of a sudden she got a call on the phone from Phil up in the booth behind the one-pane glass, wearing his suit. And she had been chewing gum. She forgot to take gum out of her mouth. And Phil was like, Christy, you're chewing gum. You know that's not something that we do here. And Christy's like, and in this moment, right, it almost sounds like it's the punitive accountability moment where Christy's going to get in trouble. But no, Christy was like, in that moment, Phil reminded me of why we do, what we hold ourselves accountable to, and the world that it creates for those people that we serve in our work. She's still friends with Phil, her manager from Rainbow Foods, long, long time ago. Why? Because as we always say, accountability is the glue that allows us to do the good things that we do together. So that was Christy's highlight from last month. And now we go and get ready to move forward today. I'll hand it over to Julie.
Great. Before I introduce our host this morning, we'd like to share a video from our presenting sponsor, Old National Bank.
So, Old National Bank really wants my business.
We're all about building relationships.
Okay. Then give me the elevator pitch.
Well, our solutions are customized for small business. Our services make financial management simple, and our pricing is always transparent.
Well, you got my business. What do we talk about now?
Did you see the game last night?
Yikes.
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 Old National Bank. Customized banking for small business. Just another reason to get old.
Okay, well now it's time for me to introduce the creator of this event, the founder and CEO of Good Leadership. He is quickly becoming the thought leader on healthy accountability. And he's a constant voice for how goodness pays in leadership and business. And I'm grateful to call him my friend, Paul Batts.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really fun to be here. My wife Melinda and I live in the west side of Phoenix in the wintertime. We like to feel we can afford to buy our own weather now, which I think is awesome. But also weeks like this, oh my word, can we agree this has been a wonky week? For a lot of reasons. For me, it means I've been in, so this is the 5th day of the week, and I've been in 4 different cities in all 3 time zones in the United States, and I was thinking to myself, I'm really glad there's no tariff on airplane tickets right now. And also, we probably should go after Red Bull as a sponsor for this event, because it's been quite the week. After we do our podcast this afternoon, I'm going to go back to Arizona this afternoon, and next Tuesday afternoon, we're going to drive Lola and Ralph, the dog and the cat, back from there to reestablish our home here in Minnesota. So it's been quite the week. I'm super grateful that this is how I get to end it. This breakfast, it hasn't always been a foregone conclusion that it would continue. There have been so many challenges in the 16 years now since we've been doing this, and because there's been so many new people who've come to us lately, I just thought it's time to kind of reset, why we're here and where we're headed. So the first breakfast was the first Friday of January in 2010. And if you can think back to that time, economically, it was by far the wonkiest, worst, most difficult challenge that we've seen in our lifetimes. COVID was nothing economically compared to that. And I had just changed jobs, and a bunch of people were wondering what was I going to do. And so I sent an email to a whole bunch of people in my contact list saying, let's just have a buy your own breakfast event, because I'm not going to buy your breakfast. And we got together to discuss this question. During that economic time, do you still think goodness pays? I reserved a small room, like a conference room, and 73 people showed up. And so I had to ask some of my friends in the room to help me. Let's put this thing together and organize it. How are we going to make sure this is a good experience? Some of the things that we did in that meeting, we're still carrying on to what we're doing today. And when that meeting was over, somebody said, hey, when are we going to do this again? And I said, I wasn't planning on doing this again. This is my way to get out of coffee. But a couple of people said, we have to do this again. I'll help you do this. I'll help you do this. And so it kind of limped along for 3 or 4 years, and it was very casual, and there were times where I would call the speaker on Monday when we were speaking on Friday. And then I called Sona Mering. And she said, yeah, I've heard about these things, and I would love to come and be your speaker. When Sona came and spoke for us, we were at Minnesota Valley Country Club. We were averaging about 90 people. We filled the place and we had standing room only. We had like 220 people when Sona came. And then we realized, okay, maybe we're on to something. And that caused us to move the breakfast to Golden Valley Country Club, where we were there for a long, long time. And we had just decided to move to this room when COVID hit. And once again, we're like, okay, well, maybe this breakfast has run its course. So one of the first things we did, call our sponsors, and we literally asked the question, do you want your money back? And they said, hell no. We need this more now than ever. Find a way. It was almost like everybody had read the same script. You have to find a way. So we literally broadcast in March of 2020 from our conference room on Facebook Live with one iPhone. I went to Home Depot in the morning before we broadcast to buy lights because it just looked terrible. And then we did it again. And the second one we did, we had 1,400 eyeballs on it. And then it was like, okay, so we moved into a TV studio. Some of you remember this. And then it's my friends at Old National Bank. Well, I'm so grateful that Julie and I are standing here together because Julie and I have been doing this for 11 years. And I had a conversation with Shadi Alomar, and Shadi said, you know what? Do you think people are ever going to come back into the ballroom? And I said, I don't know. Do you think we should try? And he said, yep, I'll pay for it. And I'm on the board at the Science Museum. I'll ask the CEO of the Science Museum to come. Let's just see what happens. So we sent a message out saying, do you have courage to come back into a ballroom? 70 people said yes. So we came here ready to talk down here. And we had 85 people show up who didn't tell us they were coming. It was as if the history was repeating itself. And so here we are today. I feel like now we're entering a whole new chapter because in November of last year in this room, we completely filled it with the Good Leadership Conference, our first conference that was based on research. And it was a stunning day. And the research itself and the people who came and the people who supported it just represented a whole new level for this breakfast. And now I can see it going forward with a very specific focus because when we realized we were back in the game, we went back to the core of what we were doing. Everything we do is about this idea that goodness pays. So you can see here up on the screen, goodness is defined when people thrive together in a culture of encouragement, accountability, and positive teamwork. And then as the discussion started about where should this go, all of our clients said, you know that accountability thing there that's in orange? That's getting harder. It's getting fuzzy. The way that our society's become way more flexible. We've got a lot more people working from home. The benefit structure, everything is changing, and yet accountability is not getting better. What the heck are the secrets to that? So we really did zero in on that topic. And it took us about 2 years. We put together a steering team. Many of the people in this room are a part of this. And as a result of that conference, we pulled together thought leaders, and that's what the conference facade looked like. And it was just super exciting to then take it to the next level. We've decided that this statement, through the research, really defines what do we mean by healthy accountability. 4 key concepts: win together, taking personal ownership, embracing the support of the team, and delivering quality work on time. This now has become where we are focused with this programming, and you're going to be a part of it. So we really feel like this is chapter 4. You can see this here. One of the things I do on the airplanes is I work on this book. So I'm going to make progress this afternoon. We have an ebook, a preview ebook that'll be ready by next month in May, that we're going to send to all of you, and if you like it, we're going to ask you to send it to all your friends because we really believe this concept is going to live on. Here's how it's affected the breakfast. We now see ourselves as inspiring, equipping, and empowering you to go back and improve the performance of your organizations. And we think you should start with the concept of healthy accountability, because we've seen how it's been transformational in the work that our coaches are doing with our clients. I think this is a subject that's going to be around for a while, and we're going to do everything we can to bring people like Allison O'Toole to share their perspective on what this subject is. And we've announced that next month is going to be one of our clients, Ryan Poles, who's the general manager of the Chicago Bears. Don't be doing any booing right now. Yeah, he and I are going to, this is going to be hilarious. This dude's 6'9", and he used to play in the NFL. We're going to sit next to each other right here. That ought to be a good photo op, wouldn't you say? Yeah, so we're going to keep this moving, and we'll be announcing the slate for the fall as well. So many of you have asked, how did you get to the breakfast today? I just told you. What's been so cool about it is that people like to be involved. We keep hearing this from you over and over again. That's why we do these polls. We're going to send an ebook, and we're going to ask you to comment on it. We've got these workshops we're doing on healthy accountability, which are amazingly stimulated. And coming off of that, there's some subject matter events. Why? We see it as our accountability to equip, inspire, and empower you to improve the performance of your organization. And we're just super grateful that you guys believe in this idea of goodness. So my part of the meeting right now is over. I'm going to hand it back to Julie. I'm just so grateful that you all keep coming back. It makes it effortless and feels like it's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Well, you heard Paul mention several times in his remarks about the importance of sponsors and the role that sponsors have played over the years in this breakfast. So with that, I'm grateful to all of our sponsors and would like to welcome to the stage from Health Partners this morning. Good morning. So please introduce yourself.
Great. Thank you. I'll take the microphone off. I'm Mark Hansberry. I'm the Chief Strategy and Growth Officer of Health Partners. For those of you who don't know Health Partners, we are a nonprofit health organization that strives to improve the health and well-being of those we serve. We are a client of Good Leadership. We believe in the power of good. In fact, if you are living in the Twin Cities and have probably seen some of the communication from our organization, you've seen that we as an organization believe that we are a partner for good, a good for the individual, a good for employers that choose us for the coverage for their employees, and the good of the community. As a nonprofit, we are a community asset. We are here because the community wants us to be here. And so we are grateful for the invitation to be here today and a proud sponsor of Good Leadership.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Okay, this next part is one of our favorite rituals here. So at your local hardware store, this is called the Handy Paint Pail. Here at the Good Leadership Breakfast, we call it the Bucket of Goodwill. So I'm going to ask you to practice your generosity and your aspirational thinking at the same time here for the next few minutes. We're going to ask you to make a donation to this bucket and, first think about how lucky we all are to be here today in this beautiful setting with a wonderful breakfast. And so I'm going to ask you to dig deep and be generous. You can put in cash. We take IOUs. You can scan the barcode up here and make an electronic donation, whatever's easiest. After you do that, though, make sure you put your business card in as well, because at the end of the breakfast, we're going to have Allison draw somebody's name out of here. If your name's drawn, we're going to ask you to come up on stage, and you get to donate all the money in the Bucket of Goodwill to your favorite charity. And we're so fortunate that our friends at Handy Paint Pail, Mark Bergman, match the donations that we collect here. So whatever we collect will be doubled, and a lucky winner will get to come up and choose a charity of their choice.
All right, so it's time to get back to some polling. You may remember the story I told about Christy earlier on. Christy Fox from last month's breakfast was very much an individual accountability story. Right? This wonderful research that's been done shows that this culture is built on an individual level, a team level, and at an organizational level. So we have a couple poll questions today to look at the organizational level of accountability within your organization. So again, get that phone back out. If you already closed down the browser, you can hit the QR code again. But the first poll question today, senior leaders in our organization role model healthy accountability in ways that are visible to employees. You'll be asked to share on a scale where you see your organization today. Okay, so as the numbers continue to trickle in, what do we see here? There's a majority of people in this room who go, yeah, my senior leaders are doing a really great job of modeling accountability from the top down. But if we look at this in comparison, half say, yeah, I agree, and the other half take some pause, either like no or like maybe. So as you continue to calibrate your organizational lens on accountability, let's do one more. Individuals in our organization actively seek feedback from others to improve their performance and personal growth. All right, we answered a little bit quicker. We got our polling fingers up, out, and ready and warmed up. So what do we see here? Well, if I was going to bet a nickel before I saw these results, this is what I would guess it was going to show, right? About the same. Half of the room says, yeah, people in our organization feel empowered. They feel that there's value that comes from seeking feedback for the work they're doing, in the good and the bad and the ugly and the success and the failure. You know, I sat down with an organization yesterday in a healthy accountability workshop, and by the time we got into it, they were going from organizational comments to individual to team to individual to organizational to team, because all of these things are so integrated in how they affect one another. Half of you said, our senior leaders are role modeling. Half of you said, people are empowered to go ahead and seek feedback to say, hey, how do I grow? How do I become more impactful in my organization? So we're going to allow you some time right now to go, what can we do in order to tweak, to calibrate healthy accountability in our organization? So you'll see within your program, there is a loose sheet of paper with a couple diagnostic questions. First, answer those. There's 3 of them. And then in a table discussion, you'll have about 5-6 minutes to discuss this with the people who are sitting around the table. Maybe they're people you know or people you don't know yet. That's what I like to call strangers. Maybe people from different businesses or different industries, different levels of business. The question is, in what ways could a more proactive and positive lens on accountability in your organization lead individuals to seek rather than avoid accountability? And maybe that conversation taps into, what's the role model that we're seeing at the top?
I'm going to introduce the third and final poll here. So after your discussion that you've had today, what is one word you would use to describe how you are feeling about the future of healthy accountability in your organization? And I think we have JC out in the audience somewhere. JC, do you have somebody that would want to share some thoughts about what they discussed at their table?
Yeah, why don't you click to the next slide, Julie, and we'll look at what's starting to come up here. Julie, you want to come on up and chat for a moment? Julie had the most beautiful top on today, so I'm like, Julie, you're going to be my person because... So again, as you look up at the screen, everybody, the question after your discussion, what's one word to describe how you're feeling about the future of healthy accountability in your organization? And we can see optimistic, hopeful as the biggies here. But even as you look in the atmosphere of that, right, you can see inspired, positive. You can see the ways that people define a very similar topic in very different ways. Julie, I'm curious, if you think about the future of health accountability in your workshop, right, Washburn was a part of all this research, what would you say the future of health accountability looks like in your organization?
I think in our organization, one of the things, and it resonates with the table that I was just chatting with, is that the proactive piece is probably the hardest piece to get to because of that seek and avoid imbalance. Folks avoid it because their discomfort goes high. But when you get folks who desire it, it can start to balance that out. So we were talking about how the importance of modeling it, role modeling it, and really getting it at all levels of the organization is part of what we need to start ensuring is consistent.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I appreciate that. I mean, if we think, it starts with winning, right? Winning is a verb. It's not a noun. It's not something that you are. It's something that you do. Paul, thoughts?
We are having a conversation at our table here about in the process of interviewing and talking to people in 61 different organizations, there was only one organization that was explicitly interested in interviewing for accountability in the early stages of new hires. 61 companies, Only one of them had a very deliberate interviewing strategy to talk about accountability, and here's how they did it. The first interview is, hey, tell me about what your relationship is, your personal relationship with goal setting. And if people say, well, what do you mean? Can you give me more? And it's like, well, yeah, what's the last goal you set? Help me. When do you remember setting goals? What's your relationship? What kind of changes do you make? Do you hit your own goals? It's fascinating to me that when we start looking at it through a different lens, the behaviors that we make and our change has a ripple effect downstream. So a lot of the firm-to-firm consulting that's going on around this is about some of those selection systems, because it really does make a difference. So what I'm excited about today is to introduce you to someone who I think is going to get this conversation going off in a beautiful direction. If you pay attention to the news in Minnesota, you have read about this person. She's, for the last 2 or 3 decades, has really been involved in the nonprofit human service community. She led the charge at MNsure. She worked for U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar, who's got a lot of big following in this room, I know, and spent a decade early in her career as a prosecutor. So then, personally, I just love to hear how people grew up. She's going to talk about us a little bit. This photo up here, her family had a drugstore in South Minneapolis where she worked and got to really understand the public. She watched her mom, who's here today, graduate from law school when she was 10. And who doesn't like somebody who loves Prince, the lakes, their family, and all the rest of that stuff? Please join me in welcoming Allison O'Toole. Thanks so much. Absolutely. And notice she's wearing her green jacket for the Masters.
Kind of by mistake.
Yeah.
If I had a Wolves jacket, I'd wear that
Yeah,
today.
Timberwolves jacket for sure. Well, you know what we're talking about here. When you hear the words building a culture of healthy accountability, what comes to mind for you?
Oh, so much. So much of what you're talking about resonates with me, and I bet our team too. I think of a resilient team, one that takes care of themselves. I think you can only do good work if you take care of yourself. And one that trusts each other. Trust leads to collaboration, which leads to better outcomes and success, just like you're talking about. And we try to model that at Second Harvest.
Well, that would connect the dots to the 7F's wheel that we did earlier. We seeing people as a whole person has a lot to do with it. Yeah. So you lead Second Harvest Heartland. So for those of us who may not be familiar with what that is, how can you explain to us what you really do?
This is like my favorite question. So Second Harvest Heartland is one of the largest nonprofits in the country. We are a $315 million organization. We're the third largest food bank in the country and the largest hunger relief organization in the upper Midwest. That carries with it a huge responsibility. Our mission is to end hunger together, and in the last year, we sourced, repacked, and distributed 170 million pounds of food to our community. That equals about 145 million meals. It's a lot of work. We not only provide food, we connect thousands of families to SNAP benefits to help them afford their groceries. And that is such a critical part of our work because SNAP is it's the most efficient tool we have in our toolbox. For every meal we provide, so last year 145 million meals, SNAP provides 9. So we're gonna invest in something really efficient like that. And we've got a rock star leader of that work here. I can't remember where she is, Robin Manthe. There she is. And we also advocate for smart policy change, smart nonpartisan policy change. So we've advocated for the child tax credit in Minnesota. We advocate for around changes to the SNAP program. We advocate for affordable childcare, things like that. And given our scope and capacity and scale, we have an enormous responsibility to this community to get it right. And so we are really proud. We're the standard bearer. 92.5% of every dollar that comes into our organization goes right back out into the community in the form of food or help. We are really the standard bearer. And I'm going to put our team on the spot here, but the leaders who do this every single day for our community are in this room. I'd love you to stand up and get your flowers publicly. And thanks.
Why not? Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic.
They're so incredible, and I hope what comes through too today is my pride in not only my work as a leader, but our work together with so many partners serving this community.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
We heard about the drugstore in South Minneapolis. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up and what your journey has been.
Well, yeah, and you saw the picture of my mom, who's just a force of nature. I had an early affinity to fur, I guess, in that picture too. So a little fashion there. But I grew up working at a really young age. I started working, I always joke, almost full time at age 7 because we had a family business. And I worked at the front counter at the drugstore, O'Toole Drug, 38th and Nicollet. Worked the front counter, did cartwheels down the aisles. I think I did more cartwheels than I did walking at some point in my life. I was the greeter, but it also, I think I was probably too young to understand or put words to it, but I understood that our community came to the store probably as much for those daily connections as they did for their medicine. And we were with the community, and I understood at a very early age that we rise and fall together. And we loved that store.
So growing up in South Minneapolis, there must have been some pivots. You obviously found your way to law school and all that sort of stuff. So tell us, what were some of the major sort of pivot points that help you land where you're at now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the early, which was more of an inspiration, maybe not realized as a pivot, was working really hard when I was young. Anyone in this room who has a family business, you're all in on that. But it was fun and kind of shaped me. The second true inspiration, you don't get to pick who you're born to, but boy did I luck out with my mom and dad. My mom is a force of nature, and many of you who have talked to her today know this, but she has always pivoted in her life and career and modeled that for us the whole way. She went to law school at a time when people didn't go back to school mid-career. She did, and we were right there with her. She taught us to be resilient. She taught us to be honest and stand up, and that is always she was really strict too. But the guiding principle was to stand up and be strong, and she instilled in my sister and I the confidence and fortitude to tackle anything in front of us. It is invaluable. She's still my biggest fan, and she's still a critic too. She'll tell me like it is, which is good. And I think the third one I'd say, a pivot point for me was my career early on as a prosecutor. I spent about 10 years in the courtroom every day prosecuting some of Hennepin County's most violent criminals. And boy, does that teach you to toughen up. It teaches you to be resilient, think on your feet, and problem solve. And that was a real pivotal moment for me.
Well, I can imagine why one would maybe after 10 years stop doing that. What was the pull to the next job?
That's exactly. I thought, just to be in my head about it, it was a little too dark for me.
Really?
To do every day. And I thought, and it was a little confining. I'll just be honest, our criminal justice system, I kept seeing the same people over and over again. And that was really hard. It felt like I wasn't making a difference. And so I started to think bigger and more broader, more broadly about what I could do and the impact I could have. And so it just launched me in a bunch of different ways. I started prosecuting when Amy Klobuchar was the county attorney.
Okay,
so
that's
kind
really
of the
knew each other,
throughput there. But launched me into more leadership positions, which eventually led me here. And they've all been focused on impact for this community.
How did the MNsure experience prepare you for this job?
Oh, boy. So I was the team, like the second team that went in there when it had gone off the rails so badly. And I was the team that was charged with going in to grab it up and get it going again. And I am so proud to have achieved with our team there. Boy, that team was awesome, is awesome still. I'm still in touch with them. To achieve the lowest uninsured rate in the state at the time. And it was through so much hard work and grit. And boy, I had a flak jacket on every day in that job. But it was ultimately, I believed in it. And I believed in it for this community. And I believed, I toughened up even more there.
What was the transition to this job then?
Well, so I tapped out for a minute after MNsure because you just got to recover a little bit after that experience. And the transition to this job was really amazing. The recruitment process was amazing. And it's hard to describe, but as you go through a process, you learn about an organization, you learn about the leadership, you learn about the mission, and it just felt right. And so sometimes all the data points you in a direction, and then my gut confirmed it. And it felt right, and I couldn't be more proud of this organization in my last 6 years there. It's been amazing.
I want to talk about the most recent announcement you guys have had about the big aspirations. There's other announcements too, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
So this is one of the most valuable things that we do in our work at Good Leadership. We start everything with an aspirational conversation because we're all people who are at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you're there, we only grow and develop if we do and think it helps us go to where we want to be when we grow up, the self-actualization piece. And so this model applies to human beings, it applies to organizations, and you guys had a big conversation about this, and you landed on a very, very bold aspiration. Will you tell us what you named it, and then what it is?
Well, it's our big, bold moonshot goal.
Moonshot goal.
This is my second favorite question. Maybe it's the first, I don't know. But it is the Make Hunger History Initiative. It is our big, bold goal to cut hunger in half for all Minnesotans by 2030. We believe this is a solvable issue, and we have to get this right for the community. We can do this, and it is up to us to do this. What we learned through the pandemic, there's so much coming at us. All of us have different, sort of probably some themes during the pandemic, but so much came at us. And the need and the rate of food insecurity has been on the rise. We just did a recent research survey that shows 1 in 5 Minnesotans are food insecure. That is unconscionable in a state
it's unacceptable,
that has enough resources and enough food to go around. And so when you experience this, and our team is seeing this, and our legion of partners see this every single day, it forces you to think differently. And as we have to think differently about this because it is solvable and it is a runaway train. And so we put a stake in the ground. Our board put a stake in the ground a couple of years ago as we're starting to think through this. And then we put a really public stake in the ground in January this year, or last year, maybe a little over, it's like a time warp, a little bit over a year ago, to challenge ourselves and our community to get this right. We believe, again, this is solvable. This status quo is unacceptable and unsustainable for this community. So let's do it, and it's going to take all of us. So I always welcome anyone I'm in front of to come to the table with us. It is going to take, it's not a Second Harvest Heartland moonshot, it's not a Hunger Relief Network moonshot, it is our moonshot to do better by our community. So I hope you all join me.
So, yeah, very much so. So let's connect this back then to our healthy accountability conversation. Okay, so whenever you put out a really big challenge, a big pivot, where it causes everybody to think differently, how are you expecting that your organization and your partners are going to be more accountable in ways that are healthy?
Yeah. So it is so scary to put a stake in the ground, but it is also so motivating. And I think everyone around this is motivated to do better. And so that's like a big hurdle to get over. And I think what we've done is expect accountability not only from our team and our network of partners to plan and not panic, to open their minds to new ideas, to set really strong goals, but also to understand when you are going after a solution and it doesn't work, to pivot back and to pivot towards something else. All of that going together, but hold ourselves internally and as a network accountable, but then also hold yourselves really publicly accountable. Again, it's super scary some days, but really I think it has helped us focus our work, and I know we'll be successful. I can't wait to watch this team achieve this goal and this community. I'm going to be right alongside them. And from a different seat at the table,
I was just going to say that there's a pivot there. So
Yeah.
I've had now about 110 speakers at the breakfast, and you're the first one that when we said we were going to do this, then said, okay, I've changed my plans and I'm going to go do something else during that time period.
Yeah.
So what's that all about?
I mean, I've got to be the first. You know my mom
well,
now. You got to break a little ground
that's
up
exactly
here on the
right.
stage.
Yep. So you have announced that your time has come to an end here by your own volition. And so what was that about, and then where are you headed?
Yeah. So I announced recently that I am stepping down as CEO of Second Harvest Heartland. I have had an amazing 6-year run. We've done huge things together. This team has doubled our revenue. We have distributed 30% more food to this community, and made it through COVID. We're doing research to show and get our arms around what this issue is, and we've launched a moonshot to solve it. What more can I do? So I think when you think about your tenure, I'm kind of the launcher, and it's time to pass the baton. And so what I've done, and with the help of Sarah Waite, our Chief People Officer, and I bet a lot of people know Sarah in this room, she has helped me have really courageous succession conversations with our board. It is good governance to do that. It's also scary because sometimes you're having those conversations to your own detriment, like a little bit before you're ready to go, talking about what would happen when you go. But we've been doing that for about a year. And also training up our COO to take my place. And so as we've had these conversations, really healthy and hard conversations, when you hand over the reins at times, the team is just ready to go. And Sarah Moberg, our current COO, is stepping in to be the interim CEO. She is going to do great things, and she's ready because we've been planful about this. So I'm excited for the organization. I tell this team, I love this team. I love this mission. I'm not leaving it. I'll just be at a different spot at the table.
I want to make a connection back to the aspirational framework. If you can help me go back to that slide on the screen.
Yeah.
You've been in the job 6 years.
Yeah.
We think that green bubble, that 7-year, we call that a chapter. And it's amazing how often these chapters are relevant in the lives of our organizations that we encounter and the leaders we encounter. And so I'm curious to find out now, in that, we'll just call it 7 years, a very interesting 7 years to run anything, including socially focused nonprofit. What did you learn about yourself in that time frame? Thank you, Chris.
So much. And when we talked about this, Paul, I fit right in here. It makes so much sense. And people, you know, I have an executive coach who's like, Allison, 5 to 7 years, I'm right in there. And it makes sense, even if, you know, intellectually it makes sense, but then you feel it. I've learned every second of every day in this job. And what has been the most profound thing for me is a deep connection to this community and a deep commitment to do better. And that's always been the thread, but at 54, I embrace it differently. And you just kind of own where you are, and that is where I am. And it has been an incredible journey. And it's time to tap out. And I'm going to take the summer off, Paul. I know, and I'm not going away. I mean, I'm really, you know, I have a deep love and deep gratitude to our team and all they've accomplished and every single day and this community. And I'm so excited for what's next too. I can't wait. It's going to be something with impact for this community.
Well, we're going to send you off with a gift. One of the things that we love to do here is to help our speakers understand their success habits. So part of our process is we interview people that work with our speaker, and we ask questions that help us figure out what they have learned that Allison does over and over again because it really works for her, and that things that they might do, the next leader might do. And the first thing we learned is that you are really, really good at signaling trust by giving people meaningful delegation. Meaningful opportunities through delegation. Tell us, you know, how do you do this? Why do you do it, and how do you do it?
So the why I do it is because you're more successful. You got to fan out. My nephews would be like, "You're so bossy." Well, part of that, you know, they're teenagers, so they need a little bossiness. But I truly believe that the more you share and trust in people, people want to do good work. They will rise to the occasion if you've put their trust in them. That ultimately leads to more collaboration and more success.
I agree.
No brainer.
No brainer. So here's another one we thought was fascinating. Authenticity and approachability builds buy-in. And I'm going to ask you to comment about a specific story we heard in these interviews about the truck drivers who at the end of the day feel like they can just walk right into your office, the CEO, and tell you what's going on. So can you talk a little bit about this?
They do. And sometimes I go down as they are leaving and see them walk out, you know, kind of in phases. But that means the world to me, that they feel comfortable coming in to tell me what, you know, is happening. Or that they're thinking of me for some reason, or they have a question, or they have, you know, a problem or something like that. I can think of 2 drivers who do that pretty regularly with me, sometimes in person, but they're always on the road, so sometimes it's just like a quick email and text, just keep in touch. And I learn so much from those contacts. I'm not going to divulge all the detail around a couple of them, but it is, you know, a couple of them have just been more on a personal note and this deep connection because I have shared my life. And it makes you feel vulnerable at times, but it also, if that's the kind of buy-in you get back, boy, is it worth it. I also can't be any other way, Paul. I am who I am. It's like, here's the deal. I get that from my mom.
Okay.
You just tell it like it is. And, you know, at some point in your career, you are who you are. And hopefully, in some ways, relatable to your team. And that encourages buy-in and like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it.
I love it. The last success habit here is directly related to what we learned in our healthy accountability research. Encourage kind but direct feedback to reduce the fear of repercussion.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
Well, You know, what I do and what I appreciate is just real quick, direct, like maybe not this way, this is what I'd think about. Something really clear. I think being clear is kind. I do better with that. I also always encourage people to move on after they've given the feedback. Learn from it, give it, move on. Don't let it linger. We don't have time for drama. And I think when you are willing to do that and show that the team moves on, they'll accept it a little bit differently. You don't wallow in it. You don't swirl around it.
Well, JC has been talking to people in the audience, and he's found somebody that's got a question for you.
Step on up, Holly. It's your moment. All right, Holly's got a question for you, Allison.
Great.
Hi, Allison.
Hi, Holly.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. So, you know, when you call your mom a force of nature, I would say you're this like surge of like just positive, unique electricity, right? But you're also human.
Yeah.
So, you know, knowing the impact you've had here in Minnesota and, you know, in all phases of your career, what are the things that you have to remind yourself of when the dark clouds kind of stay around for a little longer than you'd like? Like, what are the things that you think of or you go back to and remind yourself of?
Yeah. So a couple of things, and I'm going to put one other person on the spot too. But thanks for the question, Holly. I think it goes back to, you know, just the my foundation with my family and how I've grown up, and you put one foot in front of the other. I think you also decide every single day, and I decide this, how are you going to approach the day? And my cup is half full, always. And I make that decision every morning, maybe a little more subconsciously as I've gotten older. But your mindset and your attitude, I think, are everything. The other thing I do regularly is work out with Stephen Nicholas, who JC knows, who is just a powerhouse. And what that does for me is clear my head. That is one of the only ways I can clear my head, and it keeps me well, and you know, I always feel better, and he pumps me up too. But whatever that is for you, you know, for me it's working out, and building strength and remembering where I come from. But whatever that is for you, make sure you do it, because you are in charge of your life. You have your own reins, so take them. And decide how you're going to put one foot in front of the other. And for me, it's to be positive every day. We're so lucky to be in this room and to be eating breakfast and to have this conversation. And if you remember that, it makes it pretty easy.
Before we transition to the last question, which I always ask, I feel like I just have to make this comment. You know how Hollywood always makes these sequels? I feel like we're watching Force of Nature 2. So thank you for getting that first one started, Mom.
Yeah.
So we've been asking this question for more than 10 years now. So I always challenge every speaker to really think deeply about this. So how do you know for sure that goodness pays for you in your leadership?
Yeah. So I mean, I feel it every single day. When I see a team like the team at Second Harvest Heartland perform at top levels every single day, that is so good. And if I can inspire that, that is what comes back to me. And I think for our role at Second Harvest, the more we put out and stand up with and for this community, the community turns right back at us and supports us. I call it's like 360 goodness. You know, when you stand up, people are going to give back. We need that to happen. We need everyone at the table on this issue, but I see it every single day. And I'm so proud.
Me too. I know there's a couple of recruiters in the room. Let's make sure this woman stays here in Minnesota. You know,
I'm not leaving that force of nature.
Can we have a deal there? Thank you. Let's give it up for Allison. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So here comes Julie.
Oh, good. This is great. Thank you.
There's your team. Yep, right there.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah,
one of my favorite
this is
parts
the
always
best.
are the success habits. And when I think about authenticity and relatability, that came through loud and clear in everything you said. So thank you for sharing
Thank
that with
you.
the room this morning. Before we draw the winner, Good Leadership will donate $1,000 to the charity of your choice. I bet we don't have to guess.
It's not really
Yeah, that was a hard one, wasn't it?
guys. Barbie would fire me if I didn't do it. But obviously, Second Harvest Heartland, it is the team I believe so strongly in.
Wonderful.
So, yeah,
Okay.
thank you for that.
Will you draw a winner for
Yeah.
us, please?
Oh, man.
Oh, wait, before you say the name, the best part. We have raised $2,390 this morning, so with the generous match from our partners, $4,780.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you,
Yeah,
thank
almost
you.
$5,000.
Jackie Reek. Did I say
Where's
it right?
Jackie? Always in the back of the room.
Always in the back.
It's a beautiful card.
Yeah, come on. It's a long walk, isn't it? Yep.
Good morning, Jackie. Did I say your name right?
Awesome. You
did. Okay.
Come on
well, why
across
don't
there.
you? Well, her mic's over
I'm
here.
sorry.
yeah.
There's.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us where you work, and then tell us where you'd like the money to go.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Jackie Reek. I am a marketing consultant in fractional marketing. I recently just started my own business and went on my own this last September.
Yeah.
So, bold move.
Awesome. Yes.
And I have a personal affinity for the Minneapolis Crisis Nursery. I volunteer there. It's a fantastic organization. And I would love to donate the money to them.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a
Absolutely.
former board member. It's a great organization.
I love it.
All right, well, before we wrap up the breakfast today, everybody, I always like sharing a so now what? Right, we engage in an experience like this where we feel energy, we have perspective, and part of our spirit and soul goes, okay, so now what? Like when we walk out of the room, how do we keep this going? And especially within this space and sphere of healthy accountability, you know, I have the lucky opportunity to spend a lot of time with people talking about healthy accountability and healthy accountability workshops. And what happens in that space is people can put into their own context those scalable, tactical, and practical steps. So a couple things you can do as a so now what in terms of healthy accountability. First of all, you can go ahead and purchase the full research report, but also we'll send you the headlines for free so you can go, okay, I'm gonna dive into this more. I'm gonna nosh on this a little bit more. You can go ahead and spend some time with a good leadership coach, talking within your organization going, where do we need help? Where do we start? And this whole process is start up within this infinity symbol. It's not a, you need to do this and this and this, and then you're done, and then, all right, congratulations, you're healthily accountable. But it's so helpful to have outside voices going, how do we help you look at where you are and where you're going and what you need in order to experience this day to day? Just like Allison pointed through the volatility of the last 6 years, it's the accountability that's the glue that allows you to do the good work that you're doing. So if you have questions, you can chat with Jill Duval, myself, any good leadership coach. I would love to chat with you more. Thanks. Paul.
So as we head for home, that means something different for me. I'm going to go down to Arizona and then come back home. So as we head for home, remember the mission here. The mission of this breakfast is to spread goodness through good leaders because we've proven goodness pays. We're turning in the breakfast to really focus on the healthy accountability conversation because we've seen how much of a transformation it can make in your culture, in the people you attract, and the business results that you produce. So we're going to go deeper and deeper into this subject. Next month, we're going to talk to an NFL football executive, the general manager of the Chicago Bears, Ryan Poles. He's a remarkable human being who's had an amazing journey. It has not been a pretty journey the last couple of years, but it's fascinating to see what they're doing to turn it around. I hope I see you here next month. I want to remind you that goodness is when people thrive together in a culture of encouragement, accountability, and positive teamwork. And what we're learning is that healthy accountability is the glue that makes that equation work. I think the reason this is so important right now is the times are wonky at the moment. I was literally in an executive retreat 2 days ago on Long Island, where the CEO interrupted the flow of the meeting with a belly laugh, and it went like this. He said, "Oh, you're not going to believe this. Now he just said he's going to suspend the tariffs for 90 days. We had a start 15 years ago talking about goodness when things were wonky. One of the major things that's different now is I love the Edelman Trust Barometer and Pew Research. I read them every week to find out where our society's going. The reason why we think it's so important to really accelerate this conversation about goodness and healthy accountability is because the four institutions that used to knit us all together since the turn of the century, now 25 years, that is big business, organized religion, the media, and government. Our trust in those organizations has dropped by more than 50% in 25 years. What the good news here is that people, employees, are telling those same researchers they're looking for goodness and finding it in their workplace. They're finding it in you and in their colleagues, and we're doing a really good job at it. And just like we have to succeed at ending hunger, we have to succeed at creating an environment where people are finding trust and goodness to kind of put up with all this wonkiness. So we're hoping that you're catching the spirit of goodness and that you're going to continue to spread that. And here's where I ask you the most important question. Are you ready to radiate goodness today? I'm going to ask it again because that was pretty hesitant. Are you ready to radiate goodness today? Thank you very much. We'll see you in May.